The developer of Doom once said, "Story in games is like story in a porn movie. It's expected to be though, but it isn't that important." I disagree with this. The story provides context to the game, and context is somewhat important. However, my favourite game at the moment is the original Dark Souls, and while that game has a story, it doesn't go out of its way to tell you anything. I'm willing to bet that most of the people who play Dark Souls for the first time don't even realise there is a story behind the game, because you have to go out of your way to find it. But then I look at games like The Witcher, Deus Ex, and Life is Strange, which are all story-driven games that wouldn't be what they are without the story behind them. Yes, the gameplay is a major part of these games. However, as I've already said, the context behind the gameplay is important. While Dark Souls doesn't directly tell the player anything about the story of the game, it gives the player the freedom to choose whether or not they want to hunt down the story. And even then, they would still experience the story through the mechanics of the game and the enemies they face throughout Lordran, Drangleic, or Lothric, depending on which game you play. If you do want to find out about the story, you can look at the item descriptions and talk to NPCs. This, alongside the way the latest iteration of Doom presents its story through these Slayer's Testaments, is tangential storytelling. On the other hand, we have traditional storytelling, which is the opposite of tangential storytelling. With tangential, you're Detective Holden from the Netflix show Mindhunters. Fantastic show, by the way, highly recommend it. Trying to piece together the pieces of the story, and with traditional storytelling, you're told the story. Depending on the game, traditional can be better than tangential or vice versa. However, in general, they are both completely valid. Both have their pros and cons, but as always, I'm getting distracted. Then we have games that, while they tell their story in a traditional method, they have elements of tangential storytelling throughout the game. Fallout New Vegas is a perfect example of this. The main questline of the game is out and out traditional storytelling. However, when you go to somewhere like Camp Searchlight in the game world, you're never outright told what happens. However, you can work out what's happened by looking through the area, and even if you do figure it out, it's never confirmed with dialogue. It's just kind of there for you to figure out and go, yeah, that's interesting. But going back to what I said at the very start of the video and take the latest iteration of Doom, it's an immensely satisfying game to play. All of the guns, excluding the pistol, pack such a punch, and they feel like they have weight to them. The executions on each and every demon is visceral and satisfying. Then there's the power-ups, one of which allows you to quite literally punch demons into tiny little bits. Now, take away the fact that you're fighting demons and replace them with various cubes, each with an attack that corresponds with the enemy you're fighting. Take away the setting, you're not on Mars, you're not in Hell, you're on some random facility somewhere on Earth. Oh, you're also just an average Joe, and the music is no longer glorious metal, it's now generic. We've just taken everything that makes Doom, Doom, excluding the gameplay. I don't think I'd enjoy or feel anywhere near as badass as I normally would, or have anywhere near as much fun, largely because we've just turned it into Doom 3. Yes, I'm joking, but the point is that without the story cues, without context, it's not Doom. It could still be brilliant, because let's be honest, Quake was originally Doom with Cthulhu, and it was awesome, but it wasn't Doom. Without the story, no matter how simple that story may be, it's an entirely different game. Even in something like, say, Forza Motorsport, there is a story. Even if it's as simple as, you're trying to be the best racer, that's still a story. Not one that will win any Oscars, of course, but a story nonetheless. But what if we go to the other extreme? What about games, in very heavy scare quotes, that are all story, with either limited or basically no gameplay? I'm talking, of course, about the thing that will likely forever be known as walking simulators, the likes of Gone Home, Dear Esther, and the game, again, in very heavy scare quotes, where you basically actually do fuck all except walk really slowly and eavesdrop on ghosts. Everybody's gone to the rapture. There comes a point where you have to ask yourself, is this even a game anymore? Or is this just a radio play where I'm editing the bits together myself? And if it's the latter, what's the point? And why aren't I getting paid for doing their job for them? Still, there's an exception to every rule, and with walking simulators, that exception is of course the Stanley Parable. It takes the idea of the walking simulator and makes it work, largely by dicking about with the format, the very mechanics of telling a story, and the player's head. It works by telling multiple stories, often at the same time, none of which are what you think they're about, confounding your expectations at every single turn, and as a result, being pretty much a masterpiece. It's a more interesting experience than lesbians running away. Anyway, can games exist without a story? It's hard to say yes, even if it's a story we project onto the game. Yes, sticking it to those other bastards on the multiplayer server in Call of Duty is a story, even if it's a kinda simple one with not much dialogue, or at least not much dialogue that doesn't involve people's mothers. Even the tiniest bit of story can be enough to add context to whatever you're shooting, blowing up, putting pointy things into, or trying to hump. Is the opposite true though? Can a game exist if it's just story with, no actual meaningful game attached? I reckon you can probably guess my answer to that one. But anyway, I am AutomaTitan. Thank you for watching today's video, and I'll leave you with one final message. Whether you have a massive epic story or a few lines to get you from one fight to the next, just don't be like Mass Effect 3 and use the ending from a completely bloody different story. And also, don't be like Deus Ex Mankind Divided and cut your story off in the middle.